Negotiations without Ukraine, Russian TV rewrites reality live. The morning broadcast of the Kremlin program Big Game on August 8, 2025, sent a clear message. The issue of Ukraine will be resolved without Ukraine. According to Vyacheslav Nikonov and invited experts, the participation of President Zelensky in the negotiations is not just unnecessary, it is meaningless, since Ukraine is illegitimate and not capable of reaching an agreement. Once again, Russian propaganda has demonstrated that behind the imaginary desire for peace lies an aggressive policy of rejecting Ukraine's very right to subjectivity. The illusion of a big summit. The program is built around the expectation of a meeting between Putin and Trump, allegedly next week. There are no details, no official confirmation either, but this does not stop the TV presenters from playing out the storyline. Trump refuses liberal demands, removes conditions, wants peace. Of course, Moscow is presented as the initiator of peace. Zelensky is presented not as a partner, but as an obstacle. He doesn't have to participate. Trump and I have our own issues. This tactic is not new. It was played in 1938 in Munich, and in 2014, when Russia tried to force the West to negotiate over the heads of the Ukrainians. Now this scheme is being relaunched on the air, with a new actor, but the same plot. Negotiations of the strong, without the participation of the victim of aggression. Trump as the voice of reason, Europe as a hypocrite. As in previous broadcasts, an opposition is built. Trump is supposedly a pragmatist, open to the world, and Europe licks him, strangles him in its embrace. This serves several purposes at once. 1. To divide the West, to pit the US and the EU against each other in order to destroy the united position in support of Ukraine. 2. Create an illusion of change. Replace Washington's official position, which remains pro-Ukrainian, with the image of a new Trump, ready to negotiate like a man. 3. Make Europeans doubt. Even Trump is tired of Ukraine, so why should you drag it out any longer? The Kremlin's line, peace only on our terms. The second part of the program contains the key points. Ukraine itself admitted that the military path is impossible. Crimea and Donbass are no longer up for discussion. Russia cannot give up its territories since they are enshrined in the Constitution. We were waiting for Trump's speech, which took place at 11 p.m. Moscow time yesterday. Well, nothing sensational was said there, except perhaps one thing. There was a lot of talk yesterday, especially in the liberal media in the West, about Trump setting a preliminary meeting with Putin as a precondition for a meeting with Putin, allegedly. But, in fact, the U.S. president himself denied this. Should Putin meet with Zelensky before meeting with you? This is important, because President Putin spoke rather dismissively about the idea of a meeting with Zelensky this morning. I don't know. I haven't heard anything like that. That is, he doesn't have to agree to a meeting with Zelensky? Not necessarily. They would like to meet with me. I will do everything possible to stop the war. Well, and naturally, the question was asked, what about the sanctions that were promised for today? It's Friday. That's what Trump said. And what exactly do you think is he disappointed in? Well, you know, it's hard to answer this question, but it seems to me that, compared to his previous press conferences, Donald Trump has worked on his mistakes, and he has become less talkative. He answers briefly, carefully, but this is perhaps the only thing that can be latched on. Europe is being forced into a false dilemma. The program again returns to the propaganda's favorite scheme, either realism and concessions or escalation and sanctions. Europe's participation in the settlement is ridiculed, and European values are discredited. The host sarcastically suggests calling the Europeans. Let them put their paw under the hammer. Thus, the Kremlin imposes a false dilemma. Either Europe agrees to negotiate with Russia on its terms, or it finds itself powerless and without influence. Preparation for a peace without Ukraine. More and more signals from the Russian propaganda machine point to one thing. Moscow is preparing the ground for a separate peace in which Ukraine is excluded and Europe is humiliated. The simplified picture of strong Putin and rational Trump negotiating without unnecessary persons is a political trap. And those in the West who are ready to discuss the new reality or frozen conflict should remember. Kremlin talk shows are not a dialogue, but a hostile information operation. The only possible path to peace is not in ignoring Ukraine, but in supporting its rights, security, and sovereignty.